Mexico is set to become the only country to host the World Cup 3 times, so they clearly love their football. That's why despite this being the country's second tier, it's packed full of unique, interesting and fairly large stadiums. Let's check them out. Situated next to the world's largest bull ring is Estadio Ciudad de los Deportes, which actually doesn't look too dissimilar to a bull ring itself. It's a big open sunken bowl. There are no bulls here, but there are some bulls here, so no steers either. After the previous tenant departed a few years back, this ground was set to be demolished. However, Atlanta moved in, and as you can see, they've changed the seats to match their colours and the stadium lives on. I'm glad to hear it. Estadio Guaycura. This venue was extensively renovated just a few years ago and is practically a brand new stadium, as you can probably tell just by looking at it. Artificial turf was installed, which I'm usually not a fan of, but the stadium as a whole looks great. In particular, I'm liking what they've done with the seating, which is a mosaic of different colours that somewhat align with the colours of the club's home kit. Estadio Morelos. This one looks fairly standard from above, but it has a few unique features, including a sloping facade at each end. Inside, most of the capacity is coming from the lower tier, but the best seats in the house are probably in the upper decks along the sidelines, which are elevated and undercover. I believe this was designed with the intention of it hosting games at the '86 World Cup, but due to issues at the original site, the stadium couldn't be built in time. Estadio Andres Quintana Roo. Structurally speaking, the stadium is very basic. There isn't any covered seating, there is a running track of course, and the stands don't even hug the track, so those sitting in the corners are a long way away. However, they make up for that with some of the most intricate seat art going round. Those symbols probably mean something to the locals, but to me, they're just a pretty sight. Estadio Miguel Alemán Valdez. This is another one that was extensively renovated just a few years ago. In fact, before that renovation it was mostly concrete terracing without seats. Now it's chock full of these vibrant blue seats that reflect the club's colours of course, which has made a huge difference. They did also add a splash of blue to the exterior, which has made a minor difference. Estadio Francisco Zacco. The most interesting aspect to this stadium's design is probably the exterior, that has portraits of people in all shapes, colours and sizes. You got black and white, blue and red, face and faceless. The interior has its fair share of artwork as well, but it's of the advertising variety. Is that guy racing his car around the track? Estadio Tecnológico de Oaxaca. It's a newly built stadium, yet you certainly wouldn't call it a typical modern stadium. There isn't much roof coverage, but it makes up for that with some very distinctive features. This section here is like an art installation. Parts of the exterior are rather unique as well. And overall, the colour scheme kinda reminds me of an Adobe, and it's not even photoshopped. This place looks fantastic. Estadio Olímpico de Villahermosa. This is situated in the state of Tabasco, which, as you could have guessed, is not where Tabasco sauce originated. That's Moroccan. But in a way, it is the source of Tabasco sauce. The sauce is made from Tabasco peppers, which originated in the state of Tabasco. But I believe that the peppers sourced for the sauce are sourced from Louisiana, which is of course the source of the sauce. She sells seashells by the seashore. Nice stadium. Estadio BBVA. Firstly, you'll notice the eye-catching metallic material that wraps its way around the exterior. But secondly, you'll notice something a little bit unusual, that is the stadium's sloping shape. It was specifically designed that way to ensure that some spectators get a perfectly framed view of the nearby mountain range, which is just spectacular. However, even if you took that away, the interior itself is quite a beautiful sight. And overall, this is certainly one of the best stadiums in the country. Estadio Dorados means Golden Stadium. and I think it's fair to say that it lives up to that name. They didn't go overboard and give it an entirely golden exterior, which is good because gold can be quite tacky when overdone. Just take a look at the dining room of any Middle Eastern dictator. It's a lovely stadium. One downside is that it's situated next to a river and the ground is known to flood. However, to put a positive spin on it, they could always do some gold panning when their ground is underwater. Estadio Heroa de Nakazari. To be honest, I didn't know who Heroa de Nakazari was. I assumed he was a war hero, but actually it's the nickname for Jesus Garcia, a railway brakeman who, upon noticing that a car containing dynamite had caught on fire, drove the train out of the populated area, saving the town, but sacrificing his own life. What a legend. Anyway, the stadium is fairly simple, but does have a few quirks. Once more, they have just recently added some bucket seats, which just looks so much better than bare concrete. Stadio Akron. Immediately you'll notice that this stadium is a little different. In fact, it's completely unique. It's actually designed to resemble a volcano, with the white roof being a cloud hovering above the peak. The grass wrapping its way up the exterior being the vegetation lower down the mountain, and well, there's no molten rock on the inside, but it can be known to erupt. The detail that I appreciate the most is that they even chose the exact same make and model of video board that you see at the top of most volcanoes. Estadio Gregorio Tepa Gomez. On the surface, this is a very simple stadium with two uncovered stands of equal proportions and basically no seating at either of the ends, due to room constraints. However, I think it's greater than the sum of its parts. The trees that overhang this stand make for a more intimate feel, and overall it seems like the stadium has been kept in pretty good condition. Estadio Tlahuicole. As you can see, this stadium is very lopsided, but with the addition of a couple of new stands at either end in recent years, it's looking a little more balanced. But still, the main stand dwarfs the rest of the ground. It's hard to believe that just a few years back this was a very rudimentary stadium with a running track around the field. It's certainly come a long way. Estadio Mate Gomez. As you may have noticed, a lot of the exteriors have looked a little rough around the edges. This one, however, looks great. To be honest, it's purely down to that vivid shade of orange. They don't shy away from the orange on the inside either. It would have been nice to throw in some hits of blue to match the home kit, but no big deal. Considering this is one of the oldest stadiums in the league, it's not too bad. Estadio Jalisco is not the largest stadium in the country, but it is the largest stadium in the league, and it does actually share a lot of similarities with the actual largest stadium in the country. That being the symmetrical multi-tiered bowl layout, the extensive roof coverage, and of course it was built in the same decade. It too hosted games at both of the World Cups that Mexico has hosted. It has all the makings of a ground with a hostile atmosphere, and by all accounts that is the case. Estadio Carlos Iturralde. This asymmetrical open bowl stadium might seem rather modest with its bare concrete exterior, its dirt track surrounding the field, and lack of proper seating. However, how many stadiums can say that they have a giant sun painted onto the stands? So, it certainly leads in one category. Also, the seating is elevated and quite steep, so everyone in the house still gets a decent view despite being fairly far from the field. Estadio Carlos Vega Villalba. This venue gained that name just a few years ago after a renovation that included the construction of a new stand. A lot of people weren't too happy with the name change as it went from being named after a war hero, Francisco Villa, to a sporting hero. On the surface that criticism seems warranted, but I don't know the details. Anyway, despite the running track and the minuscule amount of covered seating, I kinda like this stadium. So there you have it, time to pick a favourite, and it's a fairly easy one. Stadio BBVA has a spectacular design as is, but the scenic backdrop takes it to the next level. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.